with that, we're going to switch gears once again to doing March Madness. Arun and I have done March Madness together for 7 years. So it's kind of fun to be able to continue this tradition. Well, I guess we did it for 6, right? 1 year March Madness was canceled for 2020. So we did it. Well, we've tried to do it for all 7 years. But we've been able to cover a lot of different crazy runs and championships. And so I'm excited to bring Arun into the fold into this conversation. But I also want to thank Davey here, who just rated in with his own sports crew. Davey, how are you doing tonight? Oh, okay.
Just making sure I got my mic turned on. I'm
Okay.
doing great. What we sure had a great program over on the Sandwich Show. We did Sandwich Sports tonight, and so our sports buddies panel, much like this one, we just had we had so much lively discussion. We got into the coaching changes and the Big East. Boy, two incredible hires. Like St. John's hiring Rick Pitino at his advanced age, shall we say, and then the Providence coach Mike Cooley going to Georgetown, and that's near and dear to your all's hearts. I mean, that's been nearby where you all are. I mean, great get for Georgetown, and they needed it. Boy, they've been terrible, but yeah, no, I've been great. All this to say, it's been a really good show. We really had a lot of fun having
That's
everybody on.
awesome. Yeah, so people can go check the VOD out on Davey's channel if they're listening to the audio podcast. We have the links that'll be in the show notes. Also, if you're listening on Facebook, we'll also have links over there as well. And then we also have the Davey command here as well, so anyone can check that out as well. And then we have another special guest coming back after last week by a popular demand. We've got Ryan, that E flat guy. So we're gonna bring Ryan back in right now. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's been a Monday and had
You,
the
you had
one
some streams that didn't go off as planned, I think.
yeah, bad case of allergies this morning that I thought I had subsided, but singing was a different story. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to stream today, but thankfully not so crazy that I couldn't come on and chat with you guys.
Yes, well, I appreciate that you saved your voice for us. We'll look at it that way,
Yeah.
and you do get to be in a stream today, just not on your channel. But I do appreciate your insight. I'm sorry that your Wolfpack did not get a win for you. I think it was an interesting couple of weeks. Our weekend for sure, or week, depending on how you want to look at it, but. Lots of really exciting games to break down. Obviously, we can't break down all the games that have happened. There were just too many and too many exciting things to talk about. So I'm going to structure it a little bit differently today. Today, the structure is I want a favorite game from each round, and then something that you're looking forward to in the round of 16. And so we'll go in a circle. We'll have each one of you pick a game, and then I'll let the other people in the round table riff off that same game, and that way we'll have 3 or 4 games to talk about. I will start us off by just talking about the Ivy League, just because I went to the University of Pennsylvania. Even though Princeton is our arch rival, our nemesis, it's our North Carolina to NC State, it's our, but I'm still so proud because it's so rare for an Ivy League team to get to the Sweet 16. And so for that, I'm really happy. I'm not going to root for them. I'm not going to necessarily watch them, but I am happy for the league. It's a big moment for us because a lot of people overlook the league because you don't get to have the same money, you don't have the same opportunities, not the same sponsorship deals for a whole host of reasons. But it's exciting. And what's crazy is they won, but they didn't necessarily rely on the 3-point shooting that a lot of underdogs have to do to get into that game. They were able to win in a kind of a grittier style. And then in the next game, the 3-point shooting came alive, and they got to prove that it wasn't a fluke because I don't want to say it's easy, but you can win one game, but to win two kind of solidifies that it wasn't a fluke, right? So I think that that's an important differentiating factor. And so I'm going to throw that in the hat as sort of an exciting thing to talk about. But obviously, the fact that a number 1 seed went down in the first round, a number 1 seed went down in the second round. There's been definitely upsets all throughout. But I'll let each one of you guys pick a game and riff off of that. I'm going to start off with Arun. I'm going to fill my water, but I'm going to still listen in while I'm going to fill the water. But Arun, let us know your favorite game from the first round of games, the round of 64, or something game that you really wanted to talk about the most from that. And then if I'm not back in time, then Davey, I want your opinion on Arun's game.
Oh,
I don't think I hear it run.
yeah, Arun, I think we got some muting situation here. But if we
Can you hear
can't...
me now?
There we go.
Oh yeah, we
Yes.
hear you. Hi,
Oh, okay.
hello again.
Yeah. I think the game that I was most excited about was the Furman versus Virginia game, just because upsets can happen, but like just the way that that game ended, it looked like that Virginia was going to get a win. They had the ball like in like five, like, I don't know, 5 seconds left, and they threw a really bad pass by terrible play by Clark, and he threw a half court like he trying to kill the clock, or maybe he's trying to find the man down the basketball court, and it just ended terribly. And Furman hit a clutch shot, and just kind of reminded me of, I don't know, like the 1 versus 16 game of Virginia. And I think Furman got back into the game and by switching to a 1-3-1 zone, and but just a terrible play by Clark, and I didn't expect that game like play at all when it happened.
Yeah, that what a thrilling finish that game. I think we were asked to recap the same game, but yeah, I mean the turnover was ridiculous. Like I couldn't believe that the Virginia had basically had the game won, and then like the guy just like threw the ball up in the air like it was a pop potato. It was like it was just ridiculous. That was just like anybody who was rooting for Virginia in that game had to have their head in their in their hands after that. Ryan, your thought? Do you have any thoughts on that one too?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I mean, a big part of the story is like who threw the ball away. I mean, that's like a senior leader on their team who played for the national championship team. Uh,
Yeah.
and he just, I mean, honestly, I think he probably had whatever he thought the clock was at in his mind. You know, maybe I'm sure he didn't get a chance to look. He probably thought there was less time available than there was. So he just thought, I'm just going to heave it. But still, obviously, not a decision that you would make. And that's the madness of March, because if those teams, you know, if the NCAA went with a more traditional, like, you know, best of five or even, you know, best of three, best of seven series, I don't know if Furman comes out on top. You know, obviously they're not going to make that same mistake twice, but yeah. So that's the madness of March, and credit to Furman, because I mean, after throwing the ball away, very quick recovery and immediate pass for the clutch 3-point shot. You know, which was not an easy shot to make in any situation, I don't think, but
Right.
especially at the end of the game. So it was the perfect recipe that, yeah, I honestly think might be the most memorable 10-second sequence from the tournament so far.
Well, it's interesting because you have that competing with what happened last night at the TCU game, where the kid has a, particularly if you had a side of the spread like that. That was memorable for different reasons, but I completely understand what you you really understand but you're right. That
Wait,
was a oh go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, which side of the spread did you have, Davey?
I did not have either side of that, but I know friends who did, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Oof, that was the reactions I was getting in the text that night was wild. Friends was wild, but let me see. I guess if we can just continue Robbie's question, Ryan, if you wanted to field that, what was your favorite game from that round?
Um, Gosh, I mean, you know, I mean, we're gonna talk about it at some point, but I mean, FDU, FDU.
Yes.
I mean, it was so funny. So I don't know if I got to share this on the podcast last week, but I was driving. This was during FDU's matchup against Texas Southern, I was driving home, and a lot of times I have the local sports talk station, which is, I guess, affiliated with ESPN. And so they had, but anyway, or different sports broadcast networks. So they actually had the FDU game against Texas Southern, and the play-by-play guys were saying, yeah, and Fairleigh Dickinson, they're the smallest team in the tournament, and imagine, one of those guys, matching up against, 7'4" Phenom, and they were kind of like laughing about it. and of course, I mean, it was still like a matchup mismatch, but obviously they were able to play their way around that. And yeah, just an incredible scene that I mean, I know the coach said, I think we could beat these guys, but there were a few people outside of that locker room that really thought that was really possible, So pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of incredible. It's kind of funny in a year where I didn't pick a bracket, just everyone's got destroyed so quickly, and so it kind of made like misery loves company because then you're like suddenly you regret it. I'm like I should have just made a bracket, I could have even started something or just put a random one together. But then like everyone's got destroyed. I was like, well, I didn't get to watch enough college basketball to predict that this many upsets and key upsets would happen in the first round. So it's definitely a tough one. What were some of your, Davey? What's your thoughts on that game?
So we're talking about the first. Oh, we're still talking about that. Okay. So
Yeah,
the imagery from that game was like I have a story about related to that game too. Like I had a friend like what I was debating whether to go out to watch that game or just watch it at home, but I had to still commute home from the office that night, so I did, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to take any chances because I could tell something was brewing because Farley Dickinson, they were a I think I saw. We were just talking about this on our show, but like they were like they were getting like a whole lot of points, like 23 or something, like 24, some ridiculous number, and they were winning by like 5. I'm like, there could be something to this. They just kept hanging around. They just were not giving up that lead for a while, and then they finally did. But then they fought it back. They bought back, and so I think from that, I just seeing that, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm stay right here at home, finish this thing, and we'll see how it goes. And then we'll carry on. I'm glad I did because man, the images after the game was over, seeing the way that Farley Dickinson celebrated that game, it's just you will remember that forever. Like they were just like they were jumping up and down. They were meshing with the crowd. Like it was great. And then you see everybody like hanging their head down for Purdue, and some of them looked angry. I even saw that there was a punched out whiteboard in the Purdue locker room after the game that showed up on Twitter, and it looks to me like the guy that did the punching was Zach Edey, 7'4" wonderkind. Not really. He played terrible. He was awful. I actually think I think he's just a paper tiger, to be honest with you. You want a guy that actually did things. Well, we'll get to that later, but there's just all of that like happening. This is what sports is all about. Like that's as big enough as you're ever gonna see, and it's happened twice in 5 years now. Like it's kind of amazing.
yeah. Arun, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed with like Purdue's guard play during the game. I think their top two players were 2 for 13 from 3-point range, and that wasn't going to get it done. And I think they were one of the point guards. I believe like he was like kind of pass the ball to Edie instead of looking for a shot down the stretch. I think Edie had 21 points and 5 rebounds. Probably could have done better on the board, but they had other problems. I think the guards definitely on Varley Dickinson outplayed, and it's the second time the 16 team is being the 1 seed, but this was a lot closer of a game than the Virginia UMBC game, and it was they just had a good game plan and they executed it by like kind of doubling the post, and ED didn't go crazy, even though that's pretty crazy that they were the smallest team. And yeah, that was a good finish to the game because I think Purdue was winning like with 4 or 5 minutes left, and then they just gave up the lead and lost the game.
Yeah. So this was Ryan's favorite, and then Davey, what was your favorite of this round?
Well, I mean, that's definitely going to be up there. But as far as like as far as an end-to-end game, my favorite it was the TCU Arizona State game. That game is a very interesting game because like if you saw TCU was down a pretty comfortable amount, like they're down 7 points at halftime. They fought back and then they won, and it was really. And I think there was even a chance. And yeah, there that actually was like I think the frogs, the Horned Frogs, were giving five, so they almost had a chance to cover the spread in that game too. Um, After all that, but just to come back and win the game was huge. Like it did not look like they were going to. Arizona State really gacked it late. It was really remarkable to see that. Very exciting finish. So from that round, just a really fun game to watch. It was really exciting, and two teams that were really feeling it from the field that day, which is really rare on that weekend because nobody was shooting well. But those two teams were the exception.
Sounds good. Thank you everyone for being in chat. Obviously when we were live simulcasting on Carol's feed and on our Facebook, and we still are live on Facebook. I didn't want to say hi to everybody, but I'm super happy that Sarah is in chat, and we've got a ton of awesome people here joining us. I know some of them aren't even big sports fans like Green Guy Music, but they wanted to hang out, and I really appreciate that to help celebrate 7 years. So just a big shout out to the people who may not even care about sports, but just want to hang out with us and join us for this conversation. I really appreciate them as well. So the first round was really exciting. I want to get into the second round real quickly. Davey, I'm going to go in a different order. I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay.
What was your your favorite game in the second round?
The favorite game in the second round, and it's the same too. It's also involves TCU because I think if you talk about in a day where like nobody was scoring, like for the most part nobody was scoring. I think Xavier had their way offensively, but you're seeing a lot of ugly games, whether they were blowouts, whether UConn was absolutely kicked around. UConn absolutely kicked around St. Mary's that day. You had Miami giving. I mean, you had Miami taking basically stealing a game from Drake. Oh no, I think no, that was weak. That was around before. But Miami just absolutely destroying Indiana. It was just a rough day until we got to TCU Gonzaga, which was just an awesome game. Like that had thrills, that had chills. And then it had the aforementioned like shot at the end of the game, which is very suspicious because the game was effectively over. There were only like 10 seconds left, and then this kid just like rolls the ball up the floor and shoots a three. And I'm like, you're not gonna win with that shot unless you had unless you had TCU getting 4.5 points. And so that was certainly the shot heard around the world in certain degenerate circles. But regardless, it was a really fun game to watch, and Gonzaga got it done. And you knew it was going to be a tight game because like and it was another case where you had Gonzaga off to so Gonzaga had a slow start too in their game, their earlier round game against Grand Canyon. They were down like 10, I think, at one point. They came back and they won convincingly. Same scenario here with TCU. So they battled. They battled back, and Timmy led the way. And it was a really great win for Gonzaga to battle back and win that game after being down by a bunch of points. Like it just like wow, this is quite a comeback for the Zags. I'm not sure if they're going to have anything left, but that was a very good game and a very high scoring game at that.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll shoot it over to Ryan next. What are some of your thoughts on the second round?
Well, obviously, I mean, the scores kind of tell the story here. Not a lot of close games in the second round, which I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna kind of go more of the same route. Obviously, Texas and Penn State came down to the wire, but for me, I just kind of wanted to point out that I feel like with these second round games being so close, to the first round, you have only 48 hours to turn around and play another game. A lot of it can come down to just, who's better conditioned, who's stronger, not necessarily who has the better game plan or even sometimes it can be who's got the deeper bench, I think it's all about the fresh legs. So I think the story of the second round was, I think, a number of teams who just didn't have the legs in the end of these games.
Yeah. Everyone, what are some of your thoughts on the second round?
Yeah, like it wasn't like a lot of the games in the second round, I agree, weren't that close. I think Houston and Auburn was close at one point, but
Yeah.
then it was like, then it was, I think maybe Charles Barkley may have said something at halftime. I don't know.
That would be right. That would make sense. I think you're right. He probably did say something at halftime. Check guarantee.
And so then, then Houston, they kind of like took care of business. Like Kraymond Mark, sorry, he had 26 points and Sasser had 22. So then that was pretty much it. And then Maryland actually got out to like a 10-point lead against Alabama, but then they couldn't really score the ball like for 7 minutes. I don't think they had a field goal. And then Javon Quinterly, he's actually transferred from Villanova. He didn't get along with Jay Wright, but he had a huge game. He was the leading scorer. And Alabama, it'll be interesting, that game between San Diego State and Alabama, but they really took care of business against Maryland. But yeah, there weren't a lot of close games with other than the Gonzaga and win and the game with Texas and Penn State.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where we go here in the Sweet 16. So the matchups are Alabama, San Diego State, Houston, and Miami, and then Xavier, Texas, and then Creighton, Princeton. Obviously, that Creighton Princeton bracket, people didn't think it was going to be between a 6 and a 15 seed there. So I think that's definitely the most surprising one. The Texas Xavier, a 3-2 matchup. Is interesting, and then obviously Houston's played well all season, but Miami, I think it's played pretty well so far in this tournament, and Alabama, so far has been, consistently with all of us the best team, and they've sort of taken care of business. I'm interested to see how they do against the San Diego State, which had, a bit of an easier road to get to that round. So I'm going to start off with Ryan. What are some of your thoughts?
I was actually, this is slightly relevant because I noticed we have 2 5 seeds still standing, and there was not a 12 beating a 5 upset this year with all of the upsets going on. So I thought that was interesting. It's kind of the cliche, like, oh, there's always a 12 that beats a 5, but it didn't happen this year. Yeah. In the year of upsets. Kind of strange. But
first time it's happened in a while, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have no idea. I don't study. I didn't do my research, I guess, before of past NCAA tournaments, but I know it's obviously a cliche thing that people like to say. I think I'm particularly interested in seeing how San Diego State fares against Alabama. I mean, they just kind of clobbered Furman. It was pretty brutal. And Furman that you could tell they were kind of getting the brunt of it physically, and then they kind of I forget, one of their players kind of lost his edge and threw a temper tantrum, and got in some trouble there. But so I think that'll be interesting. That's an interesting most interesting matchup for me. Is how tough is San Diego State? Are they gonna frustrate Alabama, because Alabama hasn't had a frustrating game yet? So we'll kind of see what happens there.
All right. So Davey, what is your thoughts on this round?
Updating Rob, just I definitely have this. There's a lot of really fun matchups here in this round. I should mention that I just looked it up. The last time the tournament did not have a 12-5 upset was 2018, and I understand there are only 5 years, and now 6 with this year, where it's not happened. So that's kind of crazy that out of dozens and dozens of years, only 6 times have we not had that happenstance. So anyway, so the big game of the weekend, I think, is easily UCLA versus Gonzaga. I just think this is phenomenal, Matt. This is a phenomenal matchup. Like you're talking about 2 teams with good length, guys with some solid guard play. Granted, I think the guard play is much higher in the favor of UCLA. Gonzaga loves to go up tempo. UCLA can go up tempo, but they're tending to be more of a defensive team. and they will gladly slow the pace down if they've got a lead, and they've done it all year. UCLA continues to be one of the most consistent teams in the entire Pac-12, and at this point, I think you can even say one of the best in the country. The matchup they had earlier against Northwestern I mean, I wasn't completely surprised that they hung around. I mean, that Northwestern hung around. So you have this matchup, and it's a real coin flip. Honestly, you could go either way with it. Like, you're just talking about what's going to happen with Drew Timmy. Can they limit what he can do on the court? Can Gonzaga slow down Jaime Jaquez on some level, or Tiger Campbell? I don't know. Like, it's just gonna be one of those games that much like it was in 2006 when these two teams met with very different players. It was a very different era, but I feel like you're also gonna have a game that's gonna come down to the final 2 minutes, and I'm just looking forward to it. It's just gonna be great. I think UCLA wins. I can't guarantee that at this point, but what a matchup! It's just gonna be the game of the whole weekend, and I feel like the winner of that game will win the entire West Regional, which is saying something because you've got two really good teams on the other side of it. Arkansas and UConn. Holy cow. Like, man, some talented teams. That entire West. This is felt guys, could you make a point for any of these four teams winning the national championship? Even Arkansas? I think they all could win it. This is a really great regional.
Yeah, I mean, they already beat Kansas. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
they can definitely go on a run. So for sure. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this round?
Yeah, I just forgot to mention that. Yeah, Arkansas Kansas game was a pretty close game. I forgot about that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was also one of the more stunning games. And Musselman taking off his shirt at the end of the game was, I guess, the highlight. But
Not many people can get away with that, and he's one of them. Like, one of my friends texted me like he wanted to see Bruce Pearl do that.
I think he does that like women's college basketball game.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's some exciting matchups, and so yeah, I'll break down these. FAU is playing Tennessee, Kansas State is playing Michigan State, Gonzaga is playing UCLA, and Arkansas is playing UConn. So I mean, it's just interesting, how few one seeds advance. How there's some chalk and there's some of these 3-2s, but there's a lot of these surprising teams that have made it this far, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes out. I'm going to give each one of you guys kind of a final thought on, what you want to, anything else that you wanted to talk about. And then we'll start to wrap it up here. And maybe we'll go on a raid, but I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know that Dark Native has joined us in chat as well, and I really appreciate so many people for coming through on this anniversary special. It's a nice night to celebrate 7 years, and I'm excited for those who were on the raid that may not have heard earlier. We're going to be doing our season 8 premiere in 2 weeks during the national championship game. So it'll be a watch along as we do to start every season, where we'll also break down the XFL, 2 weeks there, which, Davey, have you watched any of the XFL?
no, sorry. I did, however, I will say,
I'm trying to tell, I want to put in a plug that I think you should. It's hard because
well, I was going to get
West
to that.
Coast teams. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did see on your Instagram an exciting finish in the Defenders game, which really looked exciting. But other than that, I haven't seen any.
Yes,
yet.
I highly recommend if you like football. It's a really cool, transparent league that I've really enjoyed the games. I mean, my team is 5-0, so I can't complain. But I think that it's been very exciting, and I highly recommend people go and check it out. But it'll be fun. We'll talk about that. The Wizards and the Caps are both on the brink of the playoffs, and so these next 2 weeks will be really important. So it'll be a really fun season 8 premiere, which will be even busier than this almost 3-hour show. But I really appreciate people for coming through to end our season 7 off properly. Especially, Davey, we've been on at the beginning of this season, actually, when football was starting. And it's kind of fun to catch you at the end of it as well. And then Ryan, of course, I love your channel, and we spend a lot of time, over there, listening to music and doing stuff that's nothing like any of this, which most of the people in chat would probably actually prefer. It's I appreciate everybody for sitting through the sports talk with us and being a part of this. But I'll let each one of you guys kind of give a closing thought or whatever you guys want to talk about, and then we can start to wrap things up. I'm going to start off with Arun. Arun, is there any final thoughts on that you can in this tournament so far, or things you're looking forward to seeing coming up?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that Princeton Creighton game. Creighton knocked out Villanova, and Princeton. Um, my dad went to Princeton. My sister went to Penn though, so it's kind of there's like some family feuding, I guess, going on.
Yeah.
And then I also just
Ooh.
want to say that Penn lost by less to Princeton than Missouri both times, so maybe Penn could be in the tournament. But yeah, I'm just interested in the Creighton versus Princeton game.
Yeah, for sure. Davey, what is your final thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, congratulations, 7 years. That's a great run, Robbie. Way to
Thank
go.
you.
Great stuff. So my thought is, I think this is with a year of upsets. I figured I might as well go for it as far as picking a champion. So when this tournament began, before any of the games were played, I selected Kansas State to come out and win the national championship in my bracket, and they're still alive. Will they make it all the way? We'll see. I think it's just an interesting one to watch. Um, I think no matter what happens, you're just going to end up with some really exciting games the rest of the way. I'm really looking forward to the next couple rounds. It's not going to be pretty. I mean, like, for example, Kansas State, Michigan State, that's going to be a rough game. FAU, Tennessee, man, first one to like 50 is going to win that one. So, we'll see. But still, I think it's going to be really tight, and I think you're in for even more madness, I think, in the weeks ahead. So I'm really excited about this, and it's great to be part of this again. Thanks so much, Robbie.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryan, your final thoughts on this stuff?
I just wanted to say I obviously the Wolfpack had a disappointing game, just as I expected, or not as I expected, but one of the ways I anticipated. I said it could go one of two ways. I still kind of held on to the hope that they would win, but Terquavian Smith, he took too many shots. The team gets overconfident, and then and then when they get too confident, he ends up like 2 minutes left in the game. He's taking a shot with 4 players around him, defending him, within arm's length. So of course one of them blocks a shot. But anyway, but what I really wanted to say and what I was leading into was because they're out, I have adopted a team to root for in this tournament. And Davey, unfortunately, it is Michigan State, the Spartans.
Oh wow! Well, that's a good pick though, because I think they're gonna. Izzo's always been tried and true in the March.
And what I want to remind people of, and this is good for anybody that's a casual fan that is not really, watching basketball all the time, but some of you may remember the tragedy that Michigan State experienced earlier this year. So just giving, that campus community something to cheer for and something positive after kind of a horrible situation that they had happen. So I'm pulling for the Spartans. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I'm going to try to cheer them on, and hopefully they can bring some more joy to that community there.
Yeah.
And if they don't, hopefully Davey wins a lot of money.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, I hope so too. I'm just so happy.
Way, I mean.
I'm just happy that somebody has a team that's alive,
Oh my goodness.
So Ryan, who did you have as your national champion in your bracket?
Oh gosh, I picked Marquette.
Interesting.
So yeah, although I have picked Gonzaga to get to the championship game, so that they're still alive. But yeah. So my bracket's pretty busted thanks to Marquette losing. Actually, the rest of my Final Four teams are still in.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. And Arun, who did you have in your final?
Houston and Alabama.
Interesting.
So chalky, but
Solid.
at least they're alive. I don't know.
But
Yeah.
You know what? They're the 2 ones that survived. The other 2 didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good on that. So
Yeah.
we can be hopeful for that. And Davey, what was your final game?
Oh well, if you wonder what I had in the beginning of the tournament, I had Kansas State versus Kansas. So Kansas obviously did not get that far.
That would have been epic if that had happened. That would have.
Oh
been
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been it would have been a great match. Like they the regular season games are like Super Bowls to those guys. Like it was incredible. You're right. I would have been an amazing game.
Yeah, it's like picking Duke UNC to play in the
In the
finals.
Final Four.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's crazy. All right, well, I'm gonna keep you guys on, but I'm gonna sign off on the Facebook and the audio podcast, and then together we'll do our abbreviated post game Twitch show while we figure out a raid target. But I want to thank everyone for listening in on the Facebook side and being a part of this, and also all the people that are listening on the podcast side have been with us through lots of different platforms and lots of different things, and it's been really cool to watch that Facebook group grow to over 2,000 followers, and it's I appreciate all the people on Instagram and on Twitch, and it's been cool to watch it grow and change on all these different platforms from a call-in radio show that then got Facebook Live, and then we took questions from there, and then we decided to bring it to Twitch. It didn't initially work on Twitch. We then took it back off of it. We've tried it on YouTube. We've tried it on a lot of different platforms. I was told by a lot of friends, bring it back to Twitch. And so I did, and I'm so happy I did. We'll celebrate 2 years affiliate when we celebrate that in May. But it's been a really cool run through these 7 years. I really appreciate all of the different guests from tonight's show. Davey and Ryan, and we have Arun, and then we had before Champ and Carol. It was awesome that he got to call in tonight. The original co-hosts, and so that was really fantastic that he got to do that. Dugenet has been great at coverage, on football and a wide variety of topics. I really love Anna Knox. I know she wanted to be here. She's under the weather, but she's great with the hockey coverage. Thank you to Gil for coming on, and he's been great this season, especially in Carol's absence. And then obviously Shirley Forrester, C4 as we call her, coming in clutch this week as well as we celebrate Women's Hockey Month as well. And it's an important part of that game, and it's cool that we got to talk hockey, XFL, a little bit of Wizards, and this March Madness on this episode. I hope that people enjoy, and I hope people have really enjoyed season 7. This is episode 303 for Sports on the Hill podcast, DC Sports Without the Politics. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our season 8 premiere. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great 2 weeks. Let's go Caps. Let's go Wizards. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Recording stopped.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we're off on Facebook, and we are off the audio podcast, and we're off on my separate recording. I manage a lot of different things simultaneously in one stream, but I really appreciate you guys, obviously, for joining and being a part of a fun and exciting evening. And Arun, I'll let you go. Do you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, not really. Just rooting for the Wizards to lose. Sorry, Ken, but that's the way I'm going to
go. Yeah, I'm kind of the tank mindset too, so I'm kind of with you.
I think that's the way to go. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I've
been with the Lakers for a few years. Honestly, it's your
best.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't really follow NBA basketball, so who's the top prospect that you want to tank for?
There's a 7'4" guy from France who's like a Kevin Durant kind of player. So.
And he's 7'4". He's even bigger. Wow.
Yeah. Champ's still in chat. No tanking.
That's not about it.
It's funny. But yes, I'm. We'll see. But these will be very telling 2 weeks. So we're either going to have a very abbreviated Wizard segment, or we'll languish in the fact that we won tons of games and how we're back in it and how we never had any doubt. That's kind of how it will go. But Arun, thank you so much for being a part of it, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Take it easy, Arun.
Take care.
Ryan and Davey are special guests for tonight. Help me pick out where we should go. I almost always go to KR. I couldn't go to KR. Again, there's other people that are on as well. I see that some people are just chatting. There's Waxwayne Music. There's lots
Gibson Lens is online too.
Oh, Gibson Lens. We haven't rated him in a long time. I'm probably not going to be able to stay for very long, but I will definitely raid in, and then I've got to do some cleaning since this has gone on for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I have to do something before I go to bed. But is Gibson Lens
looks good to me.
I don't see
wait,
why?
is my
wait, no, you're right. I'm
okay.
sorry. I missed him.
Sometimes I wonder if my browser is sometimes slow to refresh, and so like
I will
I've
say,
clicked on a stream
I-
that wasn't streaming before.
So what were you saying, David?
No, I like the call. I like the call.
Okay, cool. Let me just.
Oh, I was gonna mention, Robbie, it's really funny. As I was setting up, I was just kind of messing around on my keyboard, and I'm pretty sure I just figured out the March Madness CBS theme.
Oh yeah, we'll do it for us real quick. You plugged in?
Let's
Can you-
go.
yeah.
That's so good.
That's
Oh my
so
goodness.
amazing. My only regret is
cow.
not getting that on the original podcast. So that's amazing. I'm happy,
I
happy.
wasn't sure. I was thinking about. I was like, I wasn't sure, like
Oh
rule wise,
yeah.
how that would go over
Oh
on
no,
the
you could
actual
have
podcast.
you could have totally done that. I would have done that. But yeah, I'm happy it's recorded here. We can at least make a highlight of it. So so that's very good. Well done. So I appreciate that. Let me start the raid over to Gibson Lens, and I appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of this. We'll definitely head over. And thank you so much, Ryan and Davey. And obviously, I know you may want to watch the finals by yourselves, but if you want to do the watch along, you're both obviously invited to be a part of that as well. At the end of that show, we'll be covering probably the very end of the game. So
Fun.
it'll be.
Oh, is that a Monday night?
It is
the
a
championship?
Monday.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was.
yeah, it's cool because we get to cover the football championship and the basketball championship live on our show because they're both Mondays. So
Oh wow.
I always think that's kind of a fun way to start a new season, obviously. But yeah, it'll be very cool. Any final thoughts? We're gonna hit the raid button.
Let's do it.
Let's
All
go.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Grab the raid call if you want to, and I am gonna raid right now. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Later.
All right.